Darwin Nunez hits back at critics with veiled message online. Darwin Nunez has sent a message to his critics following Liverpool's subpar performance against Girona on Tuesday night. It seems to be an unwritten rule that there must be at least one red scapegoat at all times. Currently, that individual is Nunez, with the Uruguayan continuing to divide opinion with his performances leading the way for Liverpool. On Tuesday, the 25-year-old struggled to get up to speed in the Reds' 1-0 Champions League win over Girona, squandering a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Nunez wasn't the only player to underperform, however, with Alisson saving his side with 5 saves and Mohamed Salah's penalty earning Onslaugh's side an unconvincing 3 points. On Wednesday, Nunez took to his Instagram stories to send a message to his critics, producing a typically upbeat response. Not all of them. Some of them. "Thanks Reds for the support. We're all still in this together," wrote Nunez. Nunez also posted a picture of himself with the word resilience written underneath, further showing that he is aware of some of the negativity that is coming his way. It goes without saying that any abuse directed at Nunez is unacceptable, as the Liverpool number 9 is a great team player who loves the club. He is playing like someone lacking confidence, as his performance against Girona showed, with the forward having fewer touches, 16, than any other starter in Spain, according to FotMob. Nunez also completed just 50% of his passes, wasting possession at times, and failed to complete a dribble or win a tackle. However, any Liverpool fan should be desperate for him to succeed at Anfield, and Slot spoke about a potential loss of self-confidence after the Girona game. "What I can agree on is that he missed a few chances, so the question is always, is that something to do with a lack of confidence or is that the situation he's in at the moment?" Slot said, "I think every striker in the world has periods where every ball goes in and sometimes he has a period where you try really hard but you can't score. The good thing is that we have a lot of players who can score for us. Today, Mo again. But I would have loved to have seen Darwin score because I think every striker wants to score and needs goals." That said, Nunez is now in his 3rd season as a Liverpool player and still looks lacking in terms of his use of the ball, decision-making, and finishing. With Diogo Jota closing in on a return from injury, there is clear pressure on him to find that extra level as he looks to add 3 more goals in 2024-25 so far. More is needed if Nunez is to keep his place as the season progresses, and he will hope to silence his doubters at home to Fulham in the Premier League on Saturday, 3 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. João Pedro linked as priority target for 2025. Latest Liverpool FC news: Liverpool have been linked with a move for Brighton striker João Pedro, as Darwin Nunez has responded to criticism on social media. According to UOL journalist Bruno Andrade, Liverpool are considering Pedro as a priority target for the summer of 2025, with initial talks currently described as purely exploratory. The Reds could even begin negotiations with the 23-year-old in January, with the hope of beating other big clubs to the punch for his signature. The reliability of this player is yet to be determined. Pedro has impressed for Brighton this season, contributing 7 goals, 3 assists, in as many Premier League appearances. With doubts lingering over Nunez's long-term value and Diogo Jota's fitness record a concern, the Brazilian could be a welcome addition. Liverpool has João Pedro in its sights for next season. Liverpool has João Pedro as one of its priorities for attacking in the next season, 2025-26. To this end, it intends to start the negotiation process in January, given that Brighton is one of the most difficult clubs in the market in England. The Brazilian striker, in fact, has been closely monitored by the Red structure for almost 5 years. The most detailed monitoring began at Watford, in 2019-20, in the player's first experience in English football. Revealed by Fluminense, where he left for approximately €12 million, João Pedro has the profile that Dutch coach Onslaught is looking for. He is a kind of 9.5, that is, a goalscorer who also goes down the pitch to help in the construction at this moment. The first talks between the parties involved are merely exploratory. However, Liverpool should speed up the negotiations, since Manchester United is also interested in signing the young striker. At 23 years old, Brighton's number 9 has been a long-time target for the Reds, initially through former Dutch coach Erik ten Hag and former English director Dan Ashworth. It remains to be seen whether the new coach, Portuguese Ruben Amorim, will continue the process. The 2 powerful English clubs have a positive opinion of João Pedro, largely due to the impact the player usually has against strong opponents, as happened last month, when he scored one of the 2 goals in the 2-1 victory over Manchester City. Linked to Brighton until June 2028 and having cost around €35 million in 2023, João Pedro was not on the last list of the Brazilian national team's call-up, but remains in Dorival Jr.'s plans. Onslaught rewards himself with flexibility as one source of frustration lingers. Girona 0-1 Liverpool have made it 6 wins from 6 in the Champions League and are 1 foot into the last 16, with Slot's lineup decisions giving him more flexibility going forward. Despite the result, Slot wasn't particularly happy with what he saw and stressed the high standards he has set for his team, which was particularly pleasing to hear. Joanna, it was a bizarre game, really, and so I particularly liked how Slot made no secret of his dissatisfaction with the overall performance. He could easily have kept it to the dressing room and played it cool to the media after winning his 6th consecutive Champions League game, but I loved that he didn't. I wasn't nervous or particularly stressed about this game, which is always a good break for my nervous system. Maybe it was the kickoff that helped with that. It might be obvious, but Alisson was the clear source of joy for me. I liked the reminder of how easy he can make his job look. Kelleher was stellar, but Ali is a cut above. Henry, I totally agree with Joe about Slot's comments. They were very refreshing. This is a man who demands perfection. That Forest defeat still rankles with him to no end, which can only bode well for this Liverpool team. The game itself was strange, partly due to the lack of tension that Joe mentioned, and I doubt I'll remember anything about him in 5 years' time. Seeing Ali back was fantastic and a reminder of why he's one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time. Joanna, I think I said recently that I really don't want to criticize Darwin Nunez, but is making it hard not to get increasingly frustrated with him. He's low on confidence and needs that chance, but with chances not coming as often as they did under Klopp, the pressure is only building with every opportunity he gets. As a collective, though, Liverpool weren't great. They were too open, not intense enough off the ball, and created a basketball sensation on occasion that could have been avoided. Oh, and I should also mention that ridiculous yellow card shown to Luis Diaz when he simply bumped into him on the ground and fell dramatically. As bad as Macca's the other week. Nonsense. Henry, I'll be more brutal than Joe about Nunez. I'm sick of him and want him gone next summer. He's had enough time to prove himself, but, frankly, he's always terrible in possession and wasteful in front of goal. I love his passion and team spirit, don't get me wrong, but is constantly irritating and shows no signs of improving. With Hotta's injury problems a constant concern, a new number 9 should be a top transfer target in 2025. Liverpool's performance wasn't great, but the intensity never felt too necessary in a game that nobody needed to win. Henry, absolutely. There were times when I wondered whether such a strong team was necessary, but when you look at Liverpool's record under Slot, how can you complain? I know some were surprised by the strength of the starting 11 in Girona, but we were rested after the Everton game was postponed, so it made perfect sense. I would like to add one caveat that Slot needs to be careful not to put too much pressure on others as the season progresses, especially if we are to remain in both domestic competitions. In both 2021-22 and last season, our legs were slowed down from March onwards due to the cup excursions, and that proved fatal in the Premier League title race. Joanna, absolutely. It didn't always seem that way at the time, but he certainly gave himself room to be flexible for the final 2 league games in January. The schedule will be just as intense at the start of 2025, and while Slot could still continue to field a strong and consistent team, he has at least earned the right to rotate, with a place in the last 16 all but confirmed. The injuries to Ibrahima Konate and Connor Bradley, however, serve as a wake-up call for the management of the squad, as they were unnecessarily sidelined after struggling late on against Real Madrid, when the game was already won. As Henry said, we learned the hard way last season. If we think only of this game, though, I think it was a necessary one to get the team back into rhythm ahead of Fulham's visit, and they won't have missed Slot's criticism of their performance.